Manic Bestia.
Hiya, Manic Bestia here. Tonight we're going to talk about the notoriously spooky adaptation of the Oz books sequels, even though I'm sure you're all very sick of hearing about this franchise by now. I know I am. One film I've always heard about for being a classic children's horror flick was Return to Oz, which is the only film directed by Walter Murch, better known for his editing and sound work. With the 1939 film being remembered as a whimsically gay and colourful film, I was fascinated as to why the follow-up was supposedly so spooky. It was co-written by Gil Dennis, and thankfully George Lucas was not involved with this movie. Get the hell out of here, George, what the fuck? This adaptation is based on the second and third Oz books by Lyman Frank Baum. Did you know there were 3 books? Did you know there were 14 books? How about 41? Luckily for you, I have a copy of the books, so I can cross-reference how accurate the movie is to the source material. Ah shit, this is just 5 different copies of Alice in Wonderland, sorry. Alright, shut the fuck up, Manic. Shut up, okay, I've read the books and you haven't. So what makes you think that your opinion even matters? Damn, bitch! I can watch a movie, but I don't have time to read 2 whole books, you know? All of the Oz books are in the public domain. You can literally read them all online for free. Well, I'm literally filming the video right now as we are, so can you just summarise the books in the most ADHD form possible for us instead? Oh, okay, you incompetent piece of shit. You know laziness is the worst trait in all of humanity, right? Alright kids, let me tell you the story of what really happened in the marvellous land of Oz after Dorothy left. We begin in the country of the Gillikins. An orphan boy named Tip is brought up by the evil witch Mombi. And one day, Tip decides to make a pumpkin head man to scare Mombi when she returns from the cigarette store. However, she brings back a magic powder given to her by the wizard, and uses it to bring Jack Pumpkinhead to life. Jack is described as a very jolly fellow who can't help but smile gaily through his unchanging carved face. Having recently been brought to life, Jack humorously learns about the world through his father, Tip. Tip and Jack escape from Mombi while she's asleep and decide to visit the Emerald City. Tip uses the Powder of Life to animate a sawhorse, which brings Jack straight to the gates of the Emerald City, accidentally leaving Tip behind. Jack meets up with the King of the Emerald City, our old friend, the Scarecrow, from the first story. This whole book is so charming, man. It's more grounded than an Alice in Wonderland story where surreal shit just happens for no discernible reason. Jack Pumpkinhead is easily my favourite character. I wish there was a whole movie just about him. While Tip is making his way on foot, he comes across General Ginger, leader of an all-female army which successfully invades the Emerald City. Jack and the Scarecrow are too busy playing quoits to notice any of this because, in fact, they are both woefully dim-witted. When news of his kingdom's takeover was reported, the Scarecrow simply says, "This is quite sudden." Throughout the story, Jack and the Scarecrow keep having to deal with their own mortality and physical flaws. Jack is always worried that his pumpkin is going to get spoiled, and the Scarecrow doesn't want to get wet or he'll become all heavy. John Arneal's illustrations of Jack and the Scarecrow are also super funny. Oh my god, look how cute he is! Sadly, some versions don't have these, so if you do want to read these books, I recommend getting one with illustrations. Or you can just look at them all online for free. I don't think Baum will mind. Unless you're Native American, in which case... In general, Jack and the Scarecrow have few thoughts between them, often making simple remarks. They're all just so jovial though, it's hard not to have a smile on your face when you see Jack's legs wobbling around or the Scarecrow with his weird floppy fingers. The 3 of them escape on the Sawhorse and make their way to the Tin Woodman, who rules over the city of the Winkies. Once acquainted, the Tin Woodman accompanies the group to recover the Scarecrow's fallen kingdom. However, General Ginger employs Mombi to cast confusion spells which leads them off track. And then they come across more unimportant characters I can't be bothered to make into a cardboard cutout. One such being the Queen of the Field Mice, who helps them overcome Mombi's tricks and finally reach the Emerald City once more. General Ginger tries to trap the group when they enter the throne room with her army, but the Scarecrow reveals he's filled with rats, which frightens all the girls and they run off screaming because... women. The group, having now secured the kingdom, make the inept decision to once again abandon it in search of aid from Glinda the Good. To escape, they use the magic powder to bring about a flying machine made from 2 sofas, some leaves, and a gump's head on the front for navigation. Unfortunately, once again, the creature was too premature to fulfill its purpose, and the group ended up crashing into a cliffside jackdaw's nest. They escape this predicament by means of a magic wishing pill and finally confront the renowned sorcerer, Glinda the Good. To their surprise, she explains to them that the true ruler of the Emerald City is neither General Ginger nor the Scarecrow, for the true ruler is... And you can find out when you read the fucking book. Oh, for God's sake, Azralar, can you just work with me this once? Sorry, bro, but I need to keep things suspenseful. Now, if you don't mind, I need to go brew some tongue of frog or some shit, I don't know. Ta-ta. I hate that dyke so much. Okay, now let's actually talk about the fucking movie. Once again, we begin in Kansas. After the events of The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, now played by Fairuza Balk, is naturally in a state of distress, having experienced what can only be described as a complete fucking nightmare of a film production. Her parents think that she's a schizo after she finds a key very clearly labelled Oz, so they decide to take Dorothy to Professor Fear and Mistress Madness in an attempt to cure her from the demons. I think the reason I love this scene is because it reminds me of being in school. I remember having teachers tell me off and talk down for me for menial things like not wearing a tie or even just drawing in tutor, like, come on, get a life you goddamn megalomaniac. Anyway, the cinematography of the scene perfectly represents how powerless she is under the authority of these bitch-ass adults who think they're the shit. I am not projecting. Actually, I am projecting.
So, grown-ups can hurt you, potentially, while trying to help you. You have to defend yourself. And this is fundamentally, I think, a very challenging idea for the kids. And it's also challenging for the grown-ups who might be sitting next to the kids.
The entire build-up of the hospital is such a freaky and comically over-the-top scene. I guess electrocuting your children to cure them from being gay was commonplace in this time period though. Nevertheless, it makes for a really thrilling opening to the film, with the cozy atmosphere of Kansas at dawn quickly spiralling into a Dutch angle-filled madhouse as Dorothy escapes the hospital. The film's composer made great use of a pipe organ here to heighten the drama to biblical levels of tension and suspense. I mean, we all know nobody is going to die because it's a kids film and nobody dies in kids films, but the way it's portrayed through the acting and practical effects is still so exciting. After being washed away into the ocean, the Land of Oz materialises around a perfectly clean Dorothy, and she's greeted by the token comic relief character, Billina the chicken. Now, Billina has a very important role in the narrative, but I don't want to spoil it because I think it's hilarious that this annoying character has to be with us the entire time. In the books, it's implied Oz is just a world beyond a mysterious desert, but in the movie, it's more like a dream world, an alternate dimension, or just an opium-fueled fever dream. I do love this premise though. Like Alice in Wonderland, up until the ending, the lack of an explanation adds another layer of mystery and opens up the story to your own interpretations, whether they be light-hearted fantasy adventures or fucked up mentally ill nightmares. On a side note, seeing this after watching Pan's Labyrinth created a much darker narrative in the back of my mind, especially after that previous scene. But let's not dwell on that because, you know, this is just a fun Disney film after all. Throughout the film, we hear the intercut machinations of the main villain, the Goblin King, the Gnome King, who's played by the same actor as the psychiatrist, which is a really cool little detail. In the beginning, we only see his henchmen speaking to him through this really cool stop-motion rock monster. Thanks to this guy, the old land of Oz has fallen. The yellow brick road has erupted, and the once illustrious Emerald City is infested with horrifying mockeries of nature known as the Wheelers. The costumes for the Wheelers are freakishly brilliant, and they're actually functional too. This sort of stunt work is what elevates this film so much for me. It's incredible to see all these moving parts come together into this surreal and immersive world. Alright, I'm gonna do it. Holy practical effects! Besides the dodgy compositing here and there, this film is absolutely bursting at the seams with seamless practical effects, and I love it. There's something so special about fantasy films which use real stunts like this. It always adds such a sense of verisimilitude that would otherwise be lost in place of soulless CGI soups of sludge which Disney keeps shitting out these days. This is all appropriately scary so far, but I can't help but feel like I'm missing something. Something or someone. Meh, I don't think it's important. The first new friend Dorothy meets in the now ruined Land of Oz is tik-tok. He's another super impressive practical costume operated by Michael Sundin, who had to stand inside the thing bent over backwards while an additional crew member controlled the head motions remotely. We learn that he's an ancient machine of war, which is a cool little detail and makes the world feel a lot more mythical.
Where did you find the key for this place?
In Kansas.
The Scarecrow must have sent it to you somehow.
Yeah, how? Shortly after they meet, Dorothy decides it would be a wonderful idea to ignore the Wheelers' warnings and willingly enter Princess Mombi's palace looking for answers. No, Dorothy, what are you doing? Don't go in there. Hey everyone, Azralar here, I'm back. That frog was delicious, by the way. Yeah, so this is all wrong. Mombi should not even be here, and she wasn't a princess. She was a wicked-ass witch. So, isn't this supposed to be Princess Ländäë from the third book? Azralar, get the hell out of here! Yeah, obviously this isn't a direct adaptation of the books. Gary Kurtz and Walter Murch confirmed this before the film was even released. So I'm pretty sure it was intentional. Yeah, whatever bro. I think they just wanted Dorothy to be the main character because she's more recognisable for stupid movie audiences like you. It's just another classic fairy tale in Disney's empire of stolen IPs. Okay, Azralar. The scene where she enters the throne room is fantastic. The princess, played by Jean Marsh, is sitting on her throne strumming a mandolin with all these beautiful echo effects added to it, creating this eerie and haunting atmosphere as the sound reverberates around the reflective room that I can only imagine was a pain in the ass to film. Between the reflections of tik-tok and the floor, it's extremely impressive to me that you don't see anything from backstage mirrored onto his giant chrome dome. Up next comes the scene everybody talks about, and for good reason. The princess says she needs to change into something more appropriate. Turns out she wasn't talking about her incredibly immaculate dress, but rather her entire brain chamber. Yes, she brings Dorothy into her hallway of severed heads and proceeds to swap out her blonde personality for a more sinister one, similar to the woman we met at the hospital. Dorothy tries to escape, but she ends up locked away in the witch's tower, alone. Honestly, I can relate to this. I've been locked up in this tower now for about 6 years. It turns out Jack Pumpkinhead was also conveniently locked away in this sex dungeon, and they both plan their escape together. Jack, played by Stuart Harvey Wilson with the voice of Brian Henson, is the same goofy fellow we know and love from the books. His whole design looks stupendous. I could only find a few behind the scenes photos, and my imagination was just racing trying to figure out how the costume all came together. It sometimes took as many as 6 people to operate his movements, which is just incredible to imagine. Jack mentions that he was built to scare Mombi, like in the book. So I guess in this film they just sort of combined them as if Ländäë is a continuation of Mombi. But what happened to Tip? Did he fucking die? Together they construct another familiar face, the flying sofa gump abomination. The puppet for this guy moves around a bit like a FNAF animatronic, but overall it looks great. The gump head was operated by Lyle Conway, who also helped on effects for 2 of my other favourite films, The Dark Crystal and Little Shop of Horrors. To create the gump, Dorothy needs to steal the magic powder of life from the princess while she's asleep. And nothing bad happens. Dorothy girl. The sequence which follows is appropriately magical and dreamlike, as we see Dorothy, Jack and Bellina flying through the glistening stars and clouds. Scene so good you already know it had to be the poster. So you're telling me this magic powder of life can give anything I want to consciousness? Oh god, oh shit. Die! Now, I don't think the end of the film is nearly as memorable as Act 1 and 2, but there's still loads of great effects to talk about here, even if it's in service of a lull in the plotline. I mentioned the Gnome King's minions earlier, but the Gnome King himself is a serious flex in terms of stop motion. He challenges Dorothy and her friends to guess which one of his ornaments he's transformed the Scarecrow into. Each person enters through the door of 1,000 Goatsies and are slowly picked off one by one, where they're subject to a fate worse than death, being transformed into one of the Gnome King's Funko Pop collection. This whole scene goes on for much too long, and as it continues you'll notice that the Gnome King slowly changes into a more human form, between threatening them in the most ludicrous ways possible.
Perhaps you'd like to visit my fiery furnace?
Oh, the Mountain King, now played by Nicole Williamson, was wearing the ruby slippers the whole time, and that's how he took over the Emerald City, I see. Who was responsible for this? Glinda, you should have buried these things deep underground if they were that powerful, holy shit! Okay, so it turns out the Scarecrow, former king of the Emerald City, was transformed into an emerald. You fucking dumbass. So in the books, the Scarecrow has this very expressive and friendly Hessian face with a wide range of emotions. But in Return to Oz, we get... We're in hell now, and the claymation here is mystifying. Sadly, it's undermined a little by the very obvious chroma keying, which is a damn shame. But if you're watching it at 240p resolution, it wouldn't be so obvious. This film would have been made for the cinema though, so I can't really excuse this. The group uses some extremely cunning tricks to overcome the Gnome King, but I don't want to spoil it, so you'll just have to find out for yourself. Let me just say though, it's possibly the most clever and subversive way I've ever seen a final villain defeated. Go check out this documentary Doug Aberley made on the process of the Gnome King's animation. It's amazing.
The deadly desert has no effect on me!
Finally, Dorothy uses the ruby slippers to reverse everything like it never happened, and Ozma returns to her throne as the true queen of... Wait, who the fuck is Ozma? Where is Tipitarius? Alright, whatever, let's just go with it. Dorothy returns to Kansas in this kind of freaky sequence where Ozma looks at her with this concerned face which, mixed with the music, feels a little bit unintentionally disturbing, like, oh god, what's wrong? And at the very end we get another one of those the fantasy world is actually real moments that a lot of movies like to do as a final mic drop. It's kinda cheesy, but hey, it's explained by Ozma that Dorothy can return whenever she wants, so I can excuse it this time. Yeah, I love this movie. The pacing issues can be a problem on subsequent viewing, but I think it has enough great moments throughout that it keeps you immersed in the fun and freaky world of Oz. But we never really found out where Ozma came from, did we? So let's find out. Okay, let's see. Glinda's army camp outside the city? Nope. Something about molesting Ginger's father? Nope. Mombi turns into a rose? Don't think so. Here it is. After capturing the witch Mombi, Glinda the Good asked, "I want you to tell us what became of the child Ozma, which so curiously disappeared."
"The Wizard of Oz brought to me the girl Ozma, and begged me to conceal the child,"
says Mombi. "What did you do with the girl?"
"I transformed her into
what?" demanded Glinda.
"Into a boy!"
A boy? Everyone knew Mombi raised Tip from childhood, and thus all looked towards him.
"Yes, that is the Princess Ozma,"
said the witch as she pointed at Tip. "I?" cried Tip. "I'm not a girl." Glinda smiled. "You are not a girl just now," said she gently, "but you were born a girl, and also a princess, so you must resume your proper form as Queen of the Emerald City." And then Tip is transformed into her true form, Ozma. And then they both kiss. This illustration is never explained in the book for some reason. Shout out to all of my Yuri manga enthusiasts out there. Oh my god. We're finally free. Finally free from the heterosexual agenda. Thanks to a book from 120 years ago.
Dorothy's guardians, trying to help Dorothy, she takes Dorothy to a place which ultimately might do her harm. The subtext of the film is, you must defend your dreams. You can't let the world take away your dreams from you. That's your most prized possession.